It's a story that begins with us, the car drivers and car owners of today, and the things we want in a motor car. We want smooth flowing lines and attractive styling, of course. We want a beautifully appointed and roomy interior with deep cushioned comfort that means easy, enjoyable riding. There are other things we want too. We want a car body that is durable, that will take the meanest road punishment without squeaking or rattling. The most in ruggedness and durability. The strength, the stamina, the safety, a name that represents the most in automobile body quality.
We made it to the Horace and John Dodge Mausoleum here at the Woodlawn Cemetery in Detroit, Michigan. And just look at this incredible Egyptian-style mausoleum they did for the Dodge brothers. Let's go check it out.
You know, I've been a Dodge owner for some time now, and nothing makes me happier than telling people about the new Dodge. I'm mighty proud of this car, and you want to know why? Well, I like a big car, substantial and solid, with a powerful V8 engine to match. Come on, let me show you what I mean.
Today we're here looking for John and Horace Dodge, who are best known as the founders and the name behind the Dodge Motor Company. The Dodge brothers were born in the 1860s west of here in Niles, Michigan, before moving to Detroit, where they grew up working as machinists. Eventually they would move on to the Dominion Typograph Company in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, and this is where they invented their Evans and Dodge bicycle, along with their business partner Frederick Evans. By the 1900s, the brothers sold the bicycle business and opened their own machine shop in Detroit to make parts for the growing automotive industry. They were immediately hired by Oldsmobile to build transmissions, and shortly after they started making engines, transmissions, and axles for none other than Henry Ford. Now, Henry Ford was unable to pay the Dodge brothers in cash, so he gave them a 10% stock in the Ford Motor Company, which would end up being an incredible investment, because after supplying parts to Ford for over a decade, the Dodge brothers sold their stock back to Henry Ford for over $25 million. And in 1913, started their own car business, the Dodge Brothers Motor Company. Just look at the detail on these Egyptian Sphinx. One for each brother. Here at the Dodge Mausoleum. You can't see anything inside, but the outside is incredible. I can't help but appreciate the craftsmanship that still looks incredible over 100 years later. I love those pillars on the side and the front of the mausoleum, and of course the two Sphinx on the entrance of the mausoleum. Now, unfortunately, the Dodge brothers would fall victim to the flu pandemic taking the country by storm back in the 1920s. The brothers attended an automotive expo in New York City and both became very sick with the flu. John Dodge almost died immediately on January 14th, 1920 from complications of pneumonia, and his brother Horace Dodge died later that year on December 10th, 1920, also from complications of pneumonia. Rest in peace, John and Horace Dodge, also known as the Dodge brothers. Now, here on the corner of section 12 and section 23, if you turn around 180, that's where you'll find the incredible Egyptian-style mausoleum of the Dodge brothers. All right, before we move on to our next stop, I'm gonna leave a few mementos for the Dodge brothers here. I wanna leave my YouTube magnet, and I also wanna leave this Matchbox Dodge Daytona, because this is the first car I ever bought. Now granted, I found out a few months later it didn't even have a radiator in it, and the floorboards were rotted out, so every time it rained and I hit a puddle, there's a bit of a problem in the driver's seat. But you can't beat the memory of your first car. And I have to thank these guys for that. The Dodge brothers for my Dodge Daytona. All right, moving on. We made it to the Whitechapel Memorial Park Cemetery here in Troy, Michigan. And look how beautiful this entrance is. And we're here to find John Zachary DeLorean. Let's go see if we can find him.
Well, here it is, unquestionably the most talked about car here at Motor Fair, the DeLorean. And with me here, Mr. John DeLorean. Mr. DeLorean, they tell me that you're the best salesman in the world.
Essentially, I'm an engineer, and I like product, I like technical things. Very proud of our car, which essentially I think is a major engineering contribution to the state-of-the-art of automobiles.
Now, once you enter the Whitechapel Memorial Cemetery, you want to find section G2. You'll see these trees over here, including this very unique slingshot tree. And from the entrance, you want to turn left and go around this curve and look for this rectangular stonework that's embedded in the ground next to this solo tree. And that's where you'll find the grave of John DeLorean, who's probably best known as the engineer, innovator, and the name behind the car of the future. See what I did there? Now, John DeLorean was born in Detroit, Michigan on January 6, 1925. He excelled in high school and earned scholarships to study industrial engineering. After graduation, DeLorean earned a job at Chrysler, working his way up the ladder to the engineering team, but couldn't resist the job offered by General Motors, reinventing the Pontiac division. He's credited with creating the first muscle car, the Pontiac GTO, the Firebird, and the Grand Prix. But John really wanted to start working on his own car that bears his name. And in 1975, the DeLorean Motor Company was born. And here's his grave, right here. John Zachary DeLorean, born on January 6th, 1925 in Detroit, Michigan, and died on March 19th, 2005 in Summit, New Jersey, of a stroke. He was 80 years old. I love how the grave has the DeLorean right on the headstone with those gull wing doors open, ready to take you 88 miles per hour. Are you telling me you built a time machine out of a DeLorean? Now, John DeLorean was given lots of grant money to build his factory in Northern Ireland, where he set up production to build his two-seater sports car with a stainless steel body and gull wing doors. Unfortunately, the company only built DeLoreans for 2 years, also known as the DMC-12s, the 12 representing the $12,000 original price tag which ended up being closer to $25,000. Yikes. Not exactly affordable to the middle-class family in 1981. But in a strange twist of fate, the DeLorean was forever immortalized as what I would call the most famous movie car ever when it was featured in the 1985 film Back to the Future.
It's one of the coolest cars in movie history. Back to the Future's 81 DeLorean, a heavily modified machine able to time travel when it reached its target speed.
Fun fact, in the movie Back to the Future, the time machine was originally going to be a refrigerator. Just imagine how terrible that would have been. But luckily, they changed their minds because they knew kids would be crawling into refrigerators at home. And I'm so glad they did. Fun fact. Now I want to leave two gifts here from the future. I want to leave my YouTube magnet. And I want to leave this miniature DeLorean right there. I just want to thank John DeLorean for creating one of my favorite cars of the future. Not only in the movies, but in reality. Rest in peace, John Zachary DeLorean. All right, moving on to our next stop. Today we made it to the Triumph Church Central Campus, right here where the automotive boom started. Detroit, Michigan.
Ford, the world's largest producer of V8 automobiles, creator of the Thunderbird, now announces the completely new 1955 Ford. Ford now offers 4 exciting lines of cars, including the new Fairlane series. See these completely new 55 Fords at your Ford dealers tomorrow.
Love this incredible church, originally called St. Martha's Episcopal Church. And what's interesting about this church is this very unique graveyard, which consists of about 60 graves, all bearing one family name, and that's Ford. Oh, that lighting is perfect right now behind that cross. Love these castle-like doors on the front. Now today we're here to find the man who started it all, Henry Ford, who was born on a farm in Dearborn, Michigan back in 1863. And at the age of 16, he left home for the nearby city of Detroit, where he found apprentice work as a machinist. He would go on to work as an engineer for the Edison Illuminating Company, and it was during this time Ford built his first gasoline-powered horseless carriage, the quadricycle, in the shed behind his home. In 1903, he established the Ford Motor Company, and 5 years later, the company rolled out the first Model T. There's a gate, and I'm pretty sure you're allowed to go in, as long as you're respectful. And here's his grave, right here. Henry Ford, born July 30th, 1863 in Dearborn, Michigan, and it was also where he died on April 7th, 1947, following a cerebral hemorrhage. He's buried here with his wife, Clara Ford, who died in 1950. Their graves are protected here by a cage, often referred to as a mort safe, protecting it from any kind of grave robbers. A common myth is that Henry Ford invented the automobile, and this is simply not true. But in 1913, he did offer a new way to manufacture a large number of vehicles, and this method of production was called the moving assembly line. I thought it was interesting that Henry Ford would eventually become good friends with his childhood hero, Mr. Thomas Edison. And Henry and Clara had one child together, Edsel Ford, who surprisingly isn't buried here at the Ford family plot. He's buried a few miles away at the Woodlawn Cemetery. Now, during the funeral of Henry Ford, the city of Detroit came to a complete standstill. Buses, streetcars, and motorists came to a halt, along with 100,000 Ford employees who came to pay their respects to this legend of the auto industry, whose methods are still being used today, almost 80 years later. Rest in peace, Mr. Henry Ford. Whoa, did you see that?
Mr. Henry Ford. Whoa, did you see that?
Now, when me and my brother were kids, my dad had this Ford Maverick muscle car from the 1970s. And every once in a while he would take the cover off for a spin and to wash it. We would even mimic him pulling the car in and out of the garage on our big wheels. We would be sitting on our thinking how cool the rumble and the look of the car was. So I definitely want to thank Henry Ford for making that memory possible with our Ford Maverick. As we say goodbye to Clara and Henry Ford, I really enjoyed paying my respects to whom I consider the true pioneer of automotive manufacturing. Don't forget to close the gate behind you. And one last look at this incredible church here at the Ford Cemetery. And time to move on to our next automotive pioneer. All right, moving on. We made it to our final stop of Automobile Innovators. Today we're here at the Holy Cross and St. Joseph Cemetery here in Indianapolis, Indiana. Now, this is the furthest grave I had to drive for, about 4.5 hours from my hometown of Cleveland, but I couldn't put out this video without including this man who's buried right here. So let's go see if we can find him.
Only on Chevrolet in the low-priced field. The utmost in safety, strength, durability, comfort. A big reason why more people want Chevrolet. More people buy Chevrolet, more people drive Chevrolet than any other car in the world.
Another perfect day here in Indianapolis, Indiana. And we're here looking for the Chevrolet brothers, Arthur, Gaston, and of course, Louis Chevrolet, who's most notably known as the co-founder and the name behind the Chevrolet Motor Company. Louis Chevrolet was born in Switzerland on Christmas Day, 1878. He grew up mechanically inclined and dropped out of school to help support his financially struggling family by working on watches with his father. A few years later, he started working at the local bicycle shop and was so good that he designed his own bike, the Frontenac and the Gladiator. And as a young adult, Chevrolet would set his sails for America to hone his craft as a leading automobile mechanic and race car driver. Chevrolet quickly gained popularity and was front page news by breaking the 1-mile world record during his first race and winning first place in races against some of the top drivers in the country. He was on top of the world. Not only was he a great racer, but a brilliant mechanic, which got him noticed by the biggest players in the automotive industry, including businessman William Durant, one of the founders of General Motors and owner of the Buick Motor Company. And with Chevrolet already being a household name, he would partner up with Louis and his brother Arthur to form the Chevrolet Motor Company in 1911. And here's his grave, right here. Louis Joseph Chevrolet, born Christmas Day 1878 and died on June 6, 1941 from a heart attack. Louis is buried here with the cenotaph of his brother Arthur Chevrolet and the grave for his other brother Gaston Chevrolet, who was killed in a race car crash in California. Now, after the Chevrolet brothers co-founded the Chevrolet company with Durant, the brothers got busy designing the vehicle while Durant would focus on the marketing part of it. The very first Chevrolet car was called the Classic 6, a luxury car that was not in the budget of most average families, making sales unsatisfactory for Durant. But the Chevrolet brothers were proud of what they accomplished and wanted to go even deeper into a race car style direction. But Durant wanted high volume, low price cars that families could afford, which would in turn be more profit for the company. This would put a major wedge in the partnership, and when Durant restructured the company behind Chevrolet's back, that was the last straw. Now, unfortunately, that's when Louis Chevrolet would make one of the worst mistakes of his life. He sold all the stake he had in the company to William Durant because he didn't agree with how he was running the company. Unfortunately, a couple years later, it became a multi-million-dollar company, actually outselling Ford. Now, once you come into the Holy Cross and St. Joseph Cemetery, you want to look for section 2G here. And you'll find this amazing historical plaque that says, the Chevrolet brothers. There are few better known names in automotive circles worldwide than Chevrolet. Millions own and drive the respected cars or trucks, but few know that the company originated with three brothers, Louis, Gaston, and Arthur Chevrolet of Swiss heritage. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you can take a screen grab and read the rest. They got a awesome picture of the three brothers right there. Louis, Arthur, and Gaston Chevrolet. Incredible. And fun fact, that little bow tie emblem you see on Chevy trucks, the urban legend is they saw that pattern in wallpaper, and that's how they came up with the design for the logo and emblem there. Fun fact. Now, like I do with all the famous graves that I go to, I want to leave a few mementos for Louis Chevrolet and his brothers. I want to leave my YouTube magnet. And I also have this Chevy Colorado truck, exactly like the one that I drive right now. It's kind of dirty, but I thought that it would be the perfect tribute for the name behind the Chevrolet Motor Company. So we're gonna leave that truck right there on my magnet. Now, if you come to the Holy Cross and St. Joseph Cemetery, here in Indianapolis, Indiana, and find my magnet, feel free to take it. But leave the Chevy Colorado truck for Louis Chevrolet and his brothers. All right, that's gonna do it. This has been an epic journey over a few states to find all these automotive pioneers and innovators. And I just want to say, until we meet again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.